Are you tired of spending countless hours agonizing over your content strategy only to feel paralyzed by indecision? Yeah, I thought so. Let's stop overthinking and start creating content that moves the needle. In this episode, we'll get into the common pitfalls of content perfectionism and show you how to streamline your approach so that you can actually move forward with creating content. Ready? Let's get started. You're listening to the Productive Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Kendrick, and I'm on a mission to help online business owners like you focus on the right things and take imperfect action. Every week, you'll get my best tips on everything from time management and content creation to planning effectively and managing mindset issues, all in an effort to help you become more productive. So let's jump into this episode. Hey friends, Tanya here. Before we get started, let me mention that you'll find the show notes for this episode at tanyakendrick.com/15. I also have a free content strategy mistakes guide that you can grab, and you'll find that in the show notes as well. First things first, why do we overthink? As solopreneurs, especially women balancing various roles, it's natural to want everything to be perfect. It's kind of baked into our DNA, right? We aim for the stars because our businesses are close to our hearts. However, this quest for perfection often leads us down a rabbit hole of endless tweaking and unnecessary stress. Overthinking happens for several reasons, and understanding these can help you manage it better. Fear of failure. When we're worried about not meeting expectations, it can lead to overanalyzing every little thing. An example of this would be, what if no one likes my content? Perfectionism. Striving for perfection can make you second-guess the content you produce. As a recovering perfectionist, I understand how difficult this is. But remember that perfection is an illusion. Focus on progress instead. Comparison. This is when you look at other content creators and think things like, look how polished her posts are. And it's a trap because most of the time we're comparing ourselves to people who are way ahead of us in the journey. For example, if I tried to compare my podcast to Amy Porterfield, I would probably just curl up under a blanket and cry. Of course she's polished. She's been podcasting for 10 years and she has a whole team to help her. Information overload. We're bombarded with information. That's just a fact. And there are so many strategies. So how do you know which one is right? It's tempting to try and consider every possible angle, but that can lead to analysis paralysis, where you're unable to make a decision and move forward. And then high stakes. This is when the outcome of a decision feels particularly important, and the pressure can lead to overthinking. Well, let me make this one easy for you. Some things are high stakes. Your content strategy is not one of them. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to make changes. You don't need to have it all figured out before you start, so just start. The best way to stop overthinking is by simplifying your strategy. Here's how. Set clear goals for your content. We always start with goals, right? So how do you set goals for your content? Identify your purpose. Ask yourself, what do I want to achieve with my content? Are you looking to build brand awareness? Drive more traffic to your website? Engage with your audience? Do you want to educate, inspire, or entertain your audience? Next, define a clear, measurable objective, like increasing website traffic, growing your email list, or boosting sales. Here are some example goals for content just to give you some ideas. Increase blog readership by 20% in 3 months. Gain 500 new Instagram followers by the end of the quarter. Boost email newsletter open rates by 15%. Clear goals give you direction and help you measure success without getting lost in the details. You also want to understand your audience. Who are you creating content for? What are their needs, preferences, and pain points? Get to know them by creating an ideal customer avatar. Now, you may be thinking, Tanya, you're talking about simplifying, but creating an avatar sounds complicated. It doesn't have to be. And it's super helpful in understanding your audience. Let me back up just a minute and define the term. An ideal customer avatar is a fictional representation of your target audience. So it includes demographics, pain points, preferred communication channels, and values. I like to think of it like creating a character for a novel. I used to write fiction, and so I had these really detailed character sketches so that I would know exactly all the details about my different characters. And that's the kind of thing you want to do with your ideal client avatar. It really lets you get into their heads. And when you do that, you'll gain valuable insights into how to create content that resonates with them and that addresses their unique challenges. And you can even use ChatGPT for this. If you input a little information about your business and your target audience, ChatGPT will generate a comprehensive avatar that you can use to guide your content strategy. You'll be amazed at how easy it is to create a client avatar with ChatGPT. Your content strategy will be so much more focused and so much more effective when you truly understand your audience. So it really is worth spending a little bit of time on this. And I have a free training that goes a lot deeper into understanding your audience and how you can use ChatGPT to create a client avatar. I'll drop a link to that in the show notes. Next, create a content calendar. A content calendar acts as your roadmap. It helps you plan ahead and reduces last-minute stress. Here are the steps to create a content calendar. 1, choose your platforms. Where will you publish? Decide on your content type. This is your main form of free long-form content. Will you write blog posts, create videos for YouTube, or maybe a podcast is more your speed? Also consider your micro-content platforms. Will you do social media? If so, what channels? Will you write emails? And here's a pro tip. I strongly suggest that you do emails. 2, decide on posting frequency. When it comes to deciding how often to post, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. First, consider your capacity. How much quality content can you realistically produce on a regular basis? Keep in mind that it's better to post less frequently than to sacrifice quality for quantity. Ask yourself, does this add value to my audience? Is it aligned with my brand values? Would I engage with this if I were my target audience? And factor in consistency as well. It's better to regularly post once a week than to post daily for a week and then disappear for 3 months. If you're just starting out, it's okay to start small. Maybe you begin with 1 blog post and 2 social media posts per week. Once you get into a rhythm and get your systems in place, you can scale up your frequency. 3, brainstorm topics. Now let's get creative. Jot down all the topics that align with your goals and with your audience's needs. If you need inspiration, look at what your competitors are doing or ask your audience directly. But don't overcomplicate this. Just jot down ideas. 4, schedule posts. This is where the calendar part comes into play. Assign dates and stick to them. Okay, I'm actually going to say stick to them as best as you can. If you get off track, don't beat yourself up. It's better to post when you can than not to post at all. I go deeper into content planning in episode 12 of the podcast, and I'll drop a link to that in the show notes. So to continue on that point about doing the best you can, let's talk a little bit about perfectionism and embracing imperfection. Perfectionism can be paralyzing. Understand that no piece of content will ever be perfect, and that's okay. Here's why embracing imperfection works. Authenticity resonates. People connect with real human experiences, not with polished perfection. Your audience wants to see the genuine you, flaws and all. Speed over perfection. Getting your content out there quickly can be more beneficial than waiting for it to be perfect. The faster you share, the quicker you learn what resonates with your audience. Also, keep in mind that content sitting on your computer doesn't help anyone. You have to publish in order to help your audience. And continuous improvement. Imperfect content gives you room to grow. You can always tweak and improve as you go based on real feedback. So how can you embrace imperfection? Well, set realistic goals. We talked about setting clear goals earlier, but they also need to be realistic. Aim for progress, not perfection. And set deadlines. Deadlines do two things. They keep you accountable. They also act as a time limit. If you've set a deadline to publish that podcast episode by Tuesday, then you only have so much time to work on it. When you run out of time, stop and publish it. Another way is to prioritize value. Focus on the value that your content provides rather than its flawlessness. Does it solve a problem or answer a question for your audience? That's what matters most. Also, share behind the scenes. Show the real side of your business journey, your struggles, your wins, your progress, and your setbacks. This humanizes you and it builds a stronger connection with your audience. Learn from feedback. Criticism can sting. I'm somebody who doesn't really like criticism, but look at it as a growth opportunity. And finally, iterate quickly. Publish, gather feedback, and improve continuously. One of my mantras is done is better than perfect. I think I've already said that once in this episode, but it's something I say to myself all the time. I have to remind myself of it pretty much every day, especially when I get stuck in overthinking mode. Another thing you can do is leverage analytics wisely. Analytics are helpful, but don't let them overwhelm you. Focus on key metrics that align with your goals rather than trying to track everything. Here are some key metrics examples. For a blog, you could look at page views and time on page. For social media, look at engagement rates, likes, comments, shares. For email marketing, focus on click-through rates. Regularly review these metrics, and when I say regularly, I mean weekly or monthly, not daily. Looking at your analytics daily can lead to obsessing over every dip or spike. If you review them weekly or monthly, you can look for trends over time and not get caught up in the weeds. Now let's talk about tools and resources. There are a lot of tools out there that can help you with your content strategy. You'll need a tool for your content calendar. I personally use Google Sheets, but you can also use tools like Google Calendar, Airtable, or project management tools like Asana. AI tools, artificial intelligence tools, can be super helpful for things like understanding your audience, generating ideas, outlining, etc. My favorite AI tools are Marketing Magic, Claude, and ChatGPT. I'll drop links to those in the show notes. You'll also need tools to help with production. And the tools that you need will depend on the format that you choose. The main content production tools I use are Word. I use this for any written content, whether it's an outline, a blog post, a script, etc. Google Docs is another option. Descript is what I use for recording and editing audios and videos. It's hands down the easiest editor I've ever used for audio and video. It works like a word processor. It automatically transcribes the audio, so I get the transcript as well. And when you edit the transcript, you're also editing the recording. I'll drop a link to Descript in the show notes. You'll also likely want something to create graphics or other visual elements. This could be for in-post graphics, slideshows, or social media. I use Canva because A, it's super easy to use, and B, if you have the pro version, it includes stock photos and you can magically resize graphics. It's worth it to me to pay for the pro version. And here are a few tips to implement tools into your strategy. Start small. Begin by integrating one tool at a time into your routine. That will allow you to learn how the tool works without overwhelming yourself by trying too many new things at once. And be consistent. Regular use will help you get the most out of these resources. If you only use a tool once a month, it will be hard to remember how it works. If you use it regularly, it'll become second nature. And experiment and adapt. Find what works best for you and then tailor it to meet your needs. Finally, let me share my main tip for maintaining momentum without becoming overwhelmed. Your content strategy is a living thing, so set regular review sessions. Take a little time weekly or monthly to review your analytics, your calendar, and your processes. And don't forget about qualitative factors like how you feel. What's working? What's not? How can you do more of what's working well? What can you change to improve the areas that aren't working? Then make small adjustments to your strategy based on what you've learned. If you make small adjustments at each review session, you'll continuously improve and you won't feel like you're starting over every time, which can be overwhelming. All right, friends, that's it for today's episode of the Productive Entrepreneur Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you're leaving with some valuable insights and, more importantly, actionable steps. Head on over to tanyakendrick.com/15 to view the show notes. You'll find links to all the resources mentioned, and don't forget to grab your free Content Strategy Mistakes Guide while you're there. In it, I share the top 5 mistakes I see people making with their content strategy, plus tips on how to fix each one. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you'd take a moment to leave a rating and review. Have a great day. And before you go, if you like what you hear on the Productive Entrepreneur Podcast, then come check out the Organized Business Toolbox. It's my monthly membership for solo entrepreneurs who want to feel in control and take imperfect action to move their businesses forward. When you join, you'll get instant access to the Training and Resource Vault, and a new toolbox or course drops every month. Plus, we have monthly Voxer office hours where you can privately ask me questions and get my direct feedback. If that sounds like something you need, the link is in the show notes, or visit tanyakendrick.com and I'll see you on the inside.